He did it. The crazy son of a gun, he did it. Caminero. Can you name the Ray who hit that drive over the fence that makes 35? Caminero. Well, he's kind of slow, unlike Jack Caminero, but he's lightning quick as compared to Will Ferrell. Caminero. Caminero. Swings not long, zones not wide. A few practice hacks make pitchers want to hide. Caminero. Finally beating out all the utility sorts. Service time manipulation is matter for the courts. Caminero. Every ball off his bat's like a laser hot beam. He's a velo mash, bullpen crash line, driving machine. Caminero. Ha! Ha, Caminero. Whoa, Caminero.
Over the fence that makes 35. Junior Caminero. Welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on Monday, August 18th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Scott White and Chris Towers. Today on the show, the Orioles called up the big guns, Samuel Basallo and Dylan Beavers. Impressing outings from some young pitchers. We have some other waiver wire ads and start or sit decisions, plus much more. But it was only appropriate, Scott, to begin today's podcast with Junior Caminero, whom you made a song about in the preseason. And you know what? You just kind of threw a little lyric in there. Over the fence that makes 35. And here we are. 35 home runs in. Boom.
35. And it's actually that I didn't want to change the number from the original Caminero song from The Simpsons, where it was smells like a steak and seats 35 for this giant SUV. And I thought, 35, that's pretty bold. That's pretty bold prediction for Caminero. But here we are, not even to September. We got like 6 weeks to go. He's at 35. I like how he took all the wind of our sails by striking out 4 times on Sunday. That was pretty cool.
We don't have to talk about that.
But we celebrate the good times, not the bad. And yes, I think he deserved it with his 35th home run already. Junior Caminero.
Oh, yes. 35 homers, 85 RBI, 5 steals, and 826 OPS on the season for Caminero. And remember, his season really turned around back in May when he started working with his hitting instructor from the Dominican Republic and kind of got his mechanics back on track. And here we are. He entered Sunday as the 17th overall player in Roto, which is crazy. The 4th highest scoring third baseman in points leagues, 3.3 fantasy points per game. Tremendous season there for Junior Caminero. Before we get into our players of the night, I think we got to start with these Orioles prospect promotions because some massive names here. We get catcher Samuel Basallo and outfielder Dylan Beavers, both called up this weekend. Basallo, arguably the top prospect in all of baseball, 21 years old. This season at AAA was hitting .270 with 23 home runs, 966 OPS, crazy exit velocities. He was in the lineup as the DH here on Sunday. He was batting 6th, 1 for 4 with 2 RBI, and actually robbed of his first home run of his career, which is pretty crazy there. Jesus Sanchez robbed 2 home runs in that game, which is just bananas. 40% rostered on CBS. Is Samuel Basallo just a must-roster player? I'm not sure how much he's going to play. What do you guys think?
I think he's going to play pretty much every day. I'm not actually worried about playing time for this season because they've already talked about I can't remember. Mansolino is his name.
Yeah, Mansolino.
The interim manager for the Orioles.
He's already said he's going to play DH. He's going to be the number 2 catcher, and he's going to play first base. So I'm not actually worried about Samuel Basallo playing the rest of this season. I do have one concern, and, I'll see comments sometimes where I get accused of being a negative Nelly And I don't want to be that. And so I want to couch this as just, this is something we need to think about the rest of the season with Samuel Basallo. The Orioles have 38 games left. He needs 20 games next season to be eligible at catcher.
He needs majority of his games.
Samuel Basallo is probably not going to be eligible at catcher next season.
Yeah. Well, it depends where he plays the majority of the time.
Well, how would it work if it's a plurality?
If a plurality, it would go to catcher as long as his combined games in the field are more than the added DH. At least on CBS, that's how we do it.
Okay, so if he plays 20 games at DH, he's DH only next year.
If he plays,
but if he plays 18 and then plays 10 at catcher and 10 at first base, he's catcher next year?
Yeah, Ty would go to what he had previously.
Okay.
And those would combine for more. On CBS, now, I think some of the other sites do it differently.
Okay.
But kind of the rationale for that at CBS is like you don't get you clearly played the field more than you DH, so you're just getting penalized for your versatility if we make you only DH.
I do think there's a pretty good chance he's just DH only, though.
Yeah, I mean, first start was a DH. Although, I haven't committed the name to memory yet either because he's just an interim manager. But he said he was excited about Basallo at first base. I think is the actual word he used, and he kind of said it twice. So I imagine we could see a lot of him there. Interestingly, Ryan Mountcastle was the one out of the lineup for this first game Sunday, not Kobe Mayo. I imagine there's going to be some trading off with all three of them and potentially Basallo spelling Adley Rutschman behind the plate as well. And he's exciting. He's really exciting. My mid-season top 50, I had Basallo second, but I really debated putting him first. I went with Kevin McGonigal first, Tiger shortstop prospect. And really the reason for that was because Basallo is going to be such a tough defensive fit. There just seems like more opportunities for a team to give up on him if it's not going well right away. When it's, he's not really a catcher probably long term, and so that just limits him to DH and first base, and that's tough. It's tough to break in at those positions. But if I was just rating them purely on their statistical impact for fantasy, I would have put Basallo number one because he hits the ball as hard as just about anybody in the majors. I mean, max average exit velocity at AAA, I kept comparing it to Kyle Schwarber. You could use Shohei Ohtani if you want. Maybe that's more impressive, but I didn't want to oversell it, by comparing Basallo to Ohtani. The strikeout rate was fine down there. Like he's a masher of the highest order. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to hit the ground running. We rarely see that even from the best hitting prospects these days. But we've seen it very recently from kind of some second tier or even third tier hitting prospects between Jacob Marcy and Colson Montgomery. And it's not unthinkable that could happen for Basallo. In theory, we should be excited that he's catcher eligible because that's the weakest position to fill. We've talked all season about how it's just been crazy deep this year. So,
I mean, Francisco Alvarez is still like 35% rostered, and he's been incredible since coming back from AAA.
He has been. He's been I think he's been sitting a third of the time, and we're thinking Basallo is going to play more than that. So in one catcher leagues, like what is the line that I'd be willing to drop this guy to take a chance on Basallo? And that's what I struggle with. It may just be that you take a shot on him anyway because he'll be good enough to use in your utility spot, particularly if he's playing more than the average catcher. But certainly I'd take him over like Alejandro Kirk or JT Realmuto or Logan O'Hoppe over Sean Murphy. Probably a close call with Drake Baldwin.
Yeah.
So that makes him a borderline top 12 catcher.
That's where I think it is. A close call with Agustin Ramirez, I think.
Especially in a points league, just because Basallo's plate discipline should be much better than Ramirez's.
Yeah. So that's about where I put him, and that's conservative. That I'm trying to be more conservative with top prospect call-ups since they've so often disappointed in the immediate. But it could be a top 5 catcher. over the final 6 weeks here, and I don't think anybody would fall out of their chair if that was the case.
What about Dylan Beavers? He is a 24-year-old outfield prospect, first-round pick back in 2022, and 94 games at AAA this year, hit .304 with 18 home runs, 23 steals, a .934 OPS, 24% rostered. He started both Saturday and Sunday. What size leagues are you guys looking at Dylan Beavers?
Certainly 5 outfielder leagues. Probably just 5 outfielder leagues for now. But he's been one of the biggest risers among prospects this year. He was not a top 100 guy. He was not a top-tier prospect in the Orioles system at all until this year. And he made a huge leap. He was both hitting the ball. Let me see if I get this right. Yeah, he was hitting the ball harder and making more consistent contact. And usually there's a trade-off between those two. To see a player make a leap in both of those areas in the same year, it's kind of, I guess, not. If you knew that going in, I guess it wouldn't be so surprising that Dylan Beavers was breaking out, but he is, and he had a huge season at AAA, and I think absolutely somebody who could matter moving forward. It's just a question of how soon.
Yeah, I agree with 5 outfielder leagues on Dylan Beavers there. 12 teams or deeper, obviously. I picked him up in Tout Wars, which is 15-team roto, 5 outfielders, OBP instead of batting average. I got him for $23 out of a $1,000 budget. So, at this point, there's not much money left in Fab, but, about 2% of the budget. I saw that there were higher bids in other places for Dylan Beavers, but lots to be excited about there. Power, speed, could be good batting average, and still a solid ballpark, I guess, from the left-hand side. I believe he's a left-handed bat, right? Did I just make that up? He is left-handed bat.
He's left-handed, yeah.
All right.
His zone contact rate was nearly 90% at AAA, so it's not just it's not just that he walks a lot and keeps the strikeouts under control. Like he doesn't miss when he swings. Basically, it's a good sign.
He's third among the top 100 prospects who have gotten called up over the past 5 days. Let's say, right? You'd rather have Basayo. You'd prioritize McLean. And Nolan McLean, and then Dylan Beavers ahead of Owen Casey.
Third?
Yeah, I think so.
Right now, I think ahead of Owen Casey. Long term, I think Owen Casey is still the better prospect. There's no path to playing time right now.
And maybe I'm kind of holding it against. Strangely, I'm kind of holding it against Basayo that he's catcher eligible, because in every one catcher league, I feel pretty settled at catcher, and so I just didn't have much interest in pursuing him. As big of a prospect as he is, maybe that's kind of dumb, but like I had a need for another pitcher in every league. And in some leagues I needed an outfielder. Again, pretty much just 5 outfielder leagues, which are also 2 catcher leagues. So yeah, I on average Basayo over Beavers, I would say. But McLean might be the most universally usable to start out, and so maybe we should talk about him.
All right, well, we will do that in just a second. Let's take our first break. When we return, we'll get into players from the weekend, a bunch of young pitchers who impressed. We'll do that right after this.
Critics are buzzing about the new season of Yellow Jackets.
This is not healthy.
Yellow Jackets' new season, now streaming on the Paramount Plus with Showtime plan.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball today. Let's get into the players of the weekend.
Oh my goodness gracious!
Oh my! And let's start with Nolan McLean. Chris, you're up first.
Nolan McLean made his major league debut on Saturday for the New York Mets. This is a guy who probably was not a top 100 prospect coming into the season, but has absolutely pitched his way into that discussion. Baseball Prospectus had him 34th in their midseason update. Fangraphs had him 53rd overall, so has been a really big riser, and he looked really good in his major league debut. It was 5 1/3 shutout innings against the Mariners, and it's the Mariners on the road, so that's a genuinely tough matchup. 8 strikeouts, 4 walks. The command, especially on the fastballs, was not great, but boy, those 2 secondary pitches, the sweeper and the curveball for Nolan McLean, looked really, really good. He gets a ton of break on them at 18 inches of horizontal break I think I was seeing on the sweeper. The curveball looked really good versus lefties. He threw it 17 times against lefties, 28% of the time. Got 11 swinging strikes on 91 pitches. That's a solid mark. 4 with the sweeper, 5 with the curveball. So he's got a weapon for lefties and righties, which you can't always say for young pitchers. I think there's a lot of upside here. I think Nolan McLean is pretty close to a 100% must roster pitcher. There might be some workload concerns as we get closer to the postseason with McLean, just because I think it was 110 pitches last season. He's up to 119 now. So, if they want him available in the postseason, I have no idea if that's the plan. It gets a little dicey. There might be some short starts, but gosh, who are we adding right now that we're not saying that about, Like, I'm not sure looking ahead that Jacob Misiorowski is going to get 6 innings in any start the rest of the season. So I think Nolan McLean is just about as close to a must-add pitcher as you can have at this point of the season. And part of what the Mets are very smart, and part of what they liked about him and what a lot of prospect people liked about him is he's a two-way player. So he's kind of a late developing. It's a little bit of the Spencer Schwellenbach thing, right? Remember, he was a shortstop in college, right?
Yes, I think that's right.
He gives me some Spencer Schwellenbach vibes in the way he's taken off and really broken through, made the leap to the majors relatively quickly, and stuff looks really good. His command is not as precise as Spencer Schwellenbach's, but the stuff might be better.
Yeah, I mean, Schwellenbach is kind of in a different stratosphere as far as command goes, just for every pitcher in baseball.
Yeah, he's kind of George Kirby level.
Yeah, he's forgetting the word I want to use, but yeah, he's at the tip top there. Well, McLean, it's McLean, right? You were kind of saying McLean,
maybe.
Okay, it's
you can't rely on me to know pronunciations.
Well, just for the audience sakes, if you're trying to type this guy's name in, it's McLean.
It sounds like McDonald's introducing a new healthy menu item.
Yeah, sure. That's it. That control would be what I'm most worried. And he walked 4 in this one. To me, it was kind of like, okay, if you told me Nolan McLean was making his major league debut, what would you expect that start to look like? And it was pretty much just like this, because he got a ton of ground balls, 55%. Good strikeout total, a lot of walks, and so if he keeps doing that, it should be good. But there's some downside risk with the control there.
The 2 most added pitchers on CBS right now are Nolan McLean and Hurston Waldrep. Scott, your player of the weekend.
Yeah, Hurston Waldrep, and I was prioritizing him over McLean. I don't know if I was alone there when I was putting in my bids. You guys can tell me. But he had another great outing here, this time at Cleveland. 6 shutout innings, 2 hits allowed, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. He got a ton of whiffs, 14 on 95 pitches. That had been missing and made me a little skeptical, but he got him in this one. And 8 were on that splitter, which is, by all indications, I mean, ever since the Braves drafted him in the first round a couple years ago, that splitter for Hurston Waldrep was expected to carry him. What's changed for him this year is that he has faded his 4-seamer in favor of a sinker, and that seems to help accentuate the splitter better. It seems to pair with it better. And just yield better outcomes for Waldrep overall. That is something that he picked up actually because of Sean Murphy. When Sean Murphy was rehabbing, I think it was that fractured rib earlier this season, he worked with Waldrep at AAA on developing this sinker. And he would really start to take off toward the end of his time at AAA. He's put together 3 great outings. One technically wasn't a start because he started the next day, a game that was rain shortened. But they were all starter's length and a combined 2 earned runs between the 3 of them. And now he's getting some whiffs. And, with that pedigree as a former first-round pick, I I'm starting to buy in a bit. I don't think it's an open and shut case by any means, but relative to what else is out there at starting pitcher on the waiver wire, I think there's a lot to like here in Hurston Waldrep.
Yeah, I think in the past it would be overstating it to say he was a one-pitch pitcher because he technically threw 3 different pitches, but his fastball was always bad. His command of his slider was not great. And so, like, I remember, Frank, we were in First Pitch, Florida, and he pitched Braves, Blue Jays. And I remember, like, checking Twitter and seeing a bunch of highlights of Hurston Waldrep's splitter because it was a legitimately impressive pitch. And he was awful in the start. But there was the highlight was the splitter, and it was like he needs the rest of the arsenal to come around. And maybe it's just as simple as, the sinker has gotten much better results than the four-seamer so far. And maybe it's just he can command those pitches better. Maybe they just aren't great pitches on their own, but they tie the room together in a way that the previous arsenal couldn't. So, yeah, I think he's been really impressive. I might prioritize McLean, but I think they're both clearly the top pitchers to add right now.
Yeah, I think I lean with Waldrep because at this point of the year, you're really taking it week by week basis. Sure. And Waldrep gets the White Sox this week, and McLean gets the Braves in Atlanta. Which, all right, the Braves have been up and down, but they still can hit the ball when they're going right. So could be a little bit of a tougher matchup there. But I agree. I mean, these two need to be the top priority pitchers right now, outside of like Jacob Lopez, who's already.
I will say,
7%.
I think Christian Javier's right there. I know Sunday was weird. He left with like an illness, so I don't know what's going on there. But what he showed in his first start, I think, was as impressive as what we've seen from these two guys.
If he could keep it up. And so we didn't get to see that in the second start because a big key to – not that the result was even that impressive for Javier in his first start back, but the velocity on his fastball was back to 2021, 2022 levels, which were when he was good. Everything was way down in velocity in his second start. He left with an illness. So you kind of just have to throw it out, and it's a big question mark still. I actually removed Christian Javier from my sleeper pitchers for this upcoming week going against Baltimore just because I didn't feel like I had a good read on him yet. And I added the Athletics pitcher Jack Perkins is his name, who had a pretty good outing over the weekends facing the Twins this week. Good swing and miss stuff, 4-pitch arsenal. So that's where I stand on Javier. I do have him quite a bit behind these other two. One reason why I prefer Waldrep to McLean, pretty narrow margin, but you brought up the innings issue for McLean, and not just how many innings does he have left, but we've seen now Waldrep go 6 innings and back to back, and with if McLean's struggling with pitch counts with the walks, how often is that going to happen?
I did want to mention a couple other young pitchers here who really impressed this weekend. I think they're very clearly behind the names we already talked about, but Cade Cavalli had a great start against the Phillies, 7 shutout innings with 5 strikeouts, had 12 whiffs on 90 pitches here, and there is no doubt the talent is there. Like his pitches have a ton of movement. He's upper 90s with the fastball. It really just comes down to command, which obviously is a big part of development for a pitcher and part of why his numbers were so bad in the minors. But, man, the stuff is definitely there.
The curveball especially looks awesome.
But even his changeup has crazy movement. And Luis Morales, who, again, a deeper league name here, but he's a prospect in the Athletics organization. He had a good start against the Angels, 5 innings, 1 run, 5 strikeouts here. So more deep league names, but anything that you guys would like to add on Cavalli and Luis Morales? Because I was impressed by both.
I put Cavalli ahead of Morales. I think he's been more impressive. It's been 2 great starts, 1 really bad one. And he was terrible at AAA in a not small sample size. The jury is certainly out on Cade Cavalli, but the stuff is impressive. He throws 97 to 100. It doesn't have great movement profile, but velocity can overcome that. And Cade Cavalli's been impressive enough that at least I wasn't super moved to add him in any 12-team leagues, but I could consider it at least.
All right, my player of the weekend is going to be Ben Rice, putting the old Homer Yankee hat on here, although actually I am not wearing a Yankee hat right now. Huge game on Saturday, 3 for 5 with his 18th home run, 7 RBI in that game, and he is basically taking over as the Yankees starting catcher. And he's also getting some games in at first base. Paul Goldschmidt, much better against lefties this season, but they are prioritizing getting Ben Rice's bat in the lineup. He has started 11 straight. He's looked much better in the second half overall, and we've talked about this all season. The StatCast numbers for Ben Rice are amazing. He is 95th percentile or better in barrel rate, hard hit, average exit velocity, XBA, XSlug, and XWOBA. So maybe we're just starting to see those numbers catch up to where they should be as hard as he's been hitting the ball this season. He's 75% rostered, so not really out there in too many leagues, catcher, first base, but I thought it was worth mentioning after a big game like this and the fact that the Yankees are prioritizing getting his bat in the lineup as consistently as they are.
I mean, so that's another catcher who clearly has tons of upside by the StatCast data. I can't find much wrong with Ben Rice's hitting profile. I guess the line drive rate could be higher, and maybe that's part of the reason why his batting average is suffering, but that's not the stickiest stat to begin with. So I bet on it. He's catcher eligible. He's playing every day. Is that a guy you take over Samuel Basallo? Yeah.
I mean, there is an element of Samuel Basallo could be anything. He could even be Ben Rice, at least based on what Ben Rice is doing this year. The Yankees are so hard to figure out right now. Goldschmidt ended up only missing 2 games with that knee injury. And I think he appeared in one of them as a pinch hitter. Giancarlo Stanton didn't play this weekend. Aaron Judge is still DH. So if Ben Rice has a bad defensive game behind the plate, do they freak out and go away from him? I think there's playing time risk with so many players here that it makes it hard to buy into anyone. But Ben Rice does rate out as a pretty average, probably below average catcher if you take everything into account. His framing is okay. He's been a decent blocker, bad arm, or bad pop time, I guess would be the better way to put that. But clearly they think it's worth it right now, especially with Austin Wells. Kind of the same thing happening as last year where he's hit that wall in the second half. So, yeah, I think Ben Rice is absolutely in that top 12 discussion. The fact that he's not clearly a top 12 catcher right now tells you a lot about the strength of that position right now, which has been one of the defining storylines of the season, frankly.
I would hope I don't have to make that decision, but Scott, it is a very good question. I think I would lean with Ben Rice. I think the playing time might be a little safer, but
yeah, I'm thinking Basallo just because what is Ben Rice's roster rate actually?
75%. Yeah, it's up there.
It's pretty high already.
I would guess there are very few one catcher leagues where Ben Rice is available.
Yeah,
probably.
Although I'm still using him at first base in several leagues.
Well, that's the thing, and I was saying I wonder if I'm penalizing Basallo unfairly. I'm penalizing for being a catcher just because you don't need a catcher. If they're playing every day and they're as good as we think they can be as hitters, then they're absolutely worth starting at another position. And that's something that goes against fantasy baseball orthodoxy, as well. As you would never play a catcher eligible player anywhere but catcher. What are you, crazy? But this year might be the year to do that with so many good options.
All right, big thanks to those watching live on YouTube. Make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's run through the news and notes. We got some big injury news this weekend. Zack Wheeler went on the IL with a blood clot near his right shoulder and could explain why he's been struggling. I know he got pushed back recently from a start because he was dealing with a shoulder issue. It turns out it's pretty serious. Last 6 starts, a 4.54 ERA, 125 WHIP. Huge loss for fantasy, huge loss for the Phillies. Doesn't have a timeline to return, so there's no replacing Zack Wheeler. He's a top 3 fantasy pitcher. Obviously, if you need help in the interim, the names we spoke about, Nolan McLean, Hurston Waldrep, Jacob Lopez, Christian Javier, names like that. But, yeah, this is a massive loss.
We're always talking waiver wire pitchers. I'm sad because, this, he's not going to get his Cy Young now, and at his age – only 2 years left. He's committed to pitching only 2 years after this one. He can't be sure he's ever going to. And
look, this is a potentially serious health issue beyond the baseball ramifications. There have been, it happens a lot more in basketball, but Chris Bosh's career was ended by blood clot issues. So it's a really scary situation. Hopefully, he's totally fine, but it's a really worrisome condition to have to deal with.
I guess this could lead to Andrew Painter maybe getting an opportunity.
Yeah, he's been terrible. He started out just kind of underwhelming, but it's gone like Bubba Chandler's season where he's just been terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And how much of that is developmental? Like they're having him experiment with different pitches and sequencing and whatnot, and how much of it is he's not good enough to pitch in the majors. I think we're going to see him either way, just to get a head start on evaluating him for next year, giving him some major league exposure so he doesn't come in wide-eyed next time. They don't need him right now. They were going with the 6-man when Wheeler was in because Taijuan Walker's been pitching well. So now they're back down to 5-man. And so I don't think we're going to see Painter tomorrow, but at some point over the next 6 weeks, I think he'll make 2 or 3 starts probably. And I don't know that we said this. Wheeler is probably out for the year. They haven't given a timeline, but just given the treatment usually required for blood clots and the amount of time that takes, I think we can safely assume he's out for the year for fantasy purposes.
Yeah, I mean, I know. So to make the basketball comparison, one of the big reasons why Damian Lillard and Victor Wembanyama have dealt with blood clots. There have been a couple other players in addition to Chris Bosh. One of the reasons why it's such a concern with basketball is because you have to take blood thinners to treat a blood clot. Typically, I don't. There might be alternative treatments, but that's typically the way it works. And obviously, your risk of suffering an injury that causes bleeding on the basketball court is much higher than in a baseball game. So it might be that they don't have to take quite as many precautions. And possibly he could, maybe, I have no idea, but I would guess they're going to be very careful with it because it's a potentially very serious health situation. So I think you should assume he's done for the season. Yes.
Another pitching injury, Chase Burns was placed in the IL Friday morning with a flexor strain in his throwing elbow. Terry Francona said the best case scenario is Burns only misses a few weeks. He could start throwing again as soon as this week, but they were kind of up against it right now, trying to figure out, workload limitations and things like that. So this kind of works itself out for now. Obviously, Chase Burns throws extremely hard, and he's a very exciting pitcher, young pitcher. So they're going to play it safe, but sounds like they're not that worried about it, at least.
I think they found a good excuse to limit his innings, just like the Brewers did with Jacob Mizrahi. I'm not saying that it's a fake injury. They're pitchers. There's always something if you need to put someone on the IL, but yeah, I think this is as much about preserving innings as his health, especially since he's going to be throwing almost immediately.
Yordan Alvarez will begin a rehab assignment at AA on Tuesday and could be back within a week. Josh Hader is expected to miss the rest of the regular season with that left shoulder strain, but hopes to return in the postseason. So you can go ahead and drop Josh Hader in redraft leagues there. Ronald Acuna was activated from the IL on Friday, so make sure to get him back in your weekly lineups. Yohan Duran was carted off the field on Friday after taking a comebacker off his right ankle, but then he was back out there for the save on Sunday, so he seems to be all right. Jackson Merrill left Sunday's game with an ankle injury, but Merrill said he's hopeful he'll be able to play on Monday. Starters sit Jackson Merrill, who obviously has had a disappointing season.
Yeah, for what reasons?
Yeah, easier to sit in a points league for sure. I think in a roto league, I'd probably still start him, but I think points he's an easy-ish sit right now.
Cole Reagans threw a 20-pitch bullpen with increased velocity on Friday. He's working his way back from a left rotator cuff strain. Tanner Scott threw a 22-pitch simulated inning on Friday, and the Dodgers are in desperate need of bullpen help, so we'll see where that goes. Marcus Semien missed Saturday after getting hit by a pitch on his wrist on Friday, but he was back in the lineup Sunday and actually homered on both Friday and Sunday, so perhaps Semien getting back on track. Kyle Stowers was placed in the IL with a left oblique strain. We lost a few third basemen to the IL this weekend. Matt Chapman with right hand inflammation. Max Muncy of the Dodgers with a right oblique strain, and he will miss more than the minimum. Still expects to return before the end of the regular season. Francisco Alvarez left Sunday night's game with what looked like a jammed thumb that he suffered on a slide. you might need a replacement for this week. And he was actually having a big weekend. He had 6 hits, a homer, 5 RBI. And as you guys pointed out, he was hitting really well since coming back from the minors. So hopefully we get good news on Francisco Alvarez. George Springer returned from the concussion IL on Saturday. Brendan Donovan.
Can I give the exact numbers on Alvarez? Just because I always think that makes the point even more. So 21 games back from injury. He's batting .323, 4 home runs, and OPS near 1,000. And this is a guy who has a sub 20% K rate on the year now after having some struggles with that earlier in his career. It's a shame he's doing it breaking out this year, Francisco Alvarez, because it's hard to get him in the top 15 even. But he looks like he's coming around. You're muted, Chris. You really want to talk, but you're muted.
The average exit velocity since he came back from the IL is like 94 miles per hour too. So
really good.
Finally tapping into the power, which was supposed to be the big carrying tool.
Brendan Donovan missed all 3 games this weekend with a sore left foot and sore groin. Marcelo Meyer will require season-ending surgery on his sprained right wrist. Josh Lowe was scratched on Saturday with right oblique tightness and then out of the lineup again on Sunday. That's the same oblique that he hurt earlier this season and the same one as last season, so I would expect him to land on the IL. Giancarlo Stanton sat out all 3 games this weekend in St. Louis. Apparently, he was dealing with some lower body soreness after playing 3 straight games in the outfield earlier in the week. And the Red Sox are signing Nate Lowe after he was released by the Nationals. Want to mention one other prospect promotion, not nearly as heralded as the Orioles guys, but the Cardinals promoted outfield prospect Nathan Church, who is 25 years old, hit very well in the minors this year, .329 batting average, 13 homers, 16 steals, a .911 OPS, 1% rostered, very, very deep league name here. But Scott, he's someone I know that you were touting. What do you have on Nathan Church?
Yeah, I wrote about him in the prospects report once earlier this year. Very, very good contact skills. He has a 95% zone contact rate and only a 10% K rate at AAA this year. That would explain why he's hit for average. Also doesn't put the ball in the air a ton, which helps batting average. But it's kind of surprising because the exit velocities are pretty crummy and he doesn't hit many fly balls. He still managed to hit 13 home runs and 385 plate appearances. I mean, a lot of this you could point to and say, there's some Jacob Marcy here, but I don't know that we should treat that as the rule. I think Marcy's the exception in a lot of ways. And the biggest difference between him and Nathan Church is Marcy puts the ball in the air a lot. Church doesn't much. So it's interesting enough minor league numbers that I want to take Nathan Church seriously, but I have doubts. And then it's going to be sparse playing time anyway, in all likelihood. So I think it's more just a scouting situation for fantasy than using him.
Yeah, I think I put some claims in on him in NL only league. That's about it for now, I think, for Nathan Church. Other names placed in the IL this weekend: Victor Scott with a left ankle sprain, which is what caused Nathan Church to get promoted. Alan Rodin went to the 60-day IL with a thumb injury, and Logan Evans with right elbow inflammation. All right, Chris, let me throw it over to you for the Dog of the Week.
And now it's time for the Dog of the Week segment, brought to you by Boehringer Ingelheim, the maker of NexGard Plus, Afoxolaner, Moxidectin, and parental chewable tablets. Used with caution in dogs with a history of seizures or neurologic disorders. Ask your vet if NexGard Plus is right for your dog. And New York, we have a Max Fried problem. He continues to struggle mightily. 5 innings, 8 hits, 7 earned runs, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts, 9 whiffs on 94 pitches this weekend. He's been bad for like a month and a half now. You go back to the start of July, it's a 6.80 ERA, a 159 whip, a 19.3% strikeout rate. The FIP is above 450 as well, so it's not like it's just bad luck. I don't know. He's dealt with forearm issues, obviously, in recent years, but it doesn't seem like that's the issue. Velocity seems fine. This stretch coincides with that blister that he dealt with, and that's the kind of thing where you can pitch through it, you can be healthy, but if you're favoring the finger, you have to adjust your grip or something like that. We saw it with Nick Lodolo last year. It really sidelined his season, but I don't know. This has gone beyond regression to the mean now, I think. So I think you have to be pretty concerned. Not in the long run that like Max Fried will never be good again, but I don't know what you do with him at this point. I think I still start him, but yeah, it's rough.
I think you could be a little bit more pick and choosy. I mean, again, it's kind of hard to. You might bench him for the start where, it's 6 innings, 1 run, 8 strikeouts, something like that. But he gets the Red Sox this week. They're second in WOBA against left-handed pitching. So it is a tough matchup. Obviously, he's struggling. It does coincide with that blister. Again, everything that I've read and heard is that he's past the blister. And I've seen some people bring up the possibility of fatigue. The Yankees have really leaned on Max Fried this year with no Garrett Cole. They've treated him like their ace, and he's thrown a ton of innings, more than really on a per-start basis he's done before. So I guess that is a possibility that, A, it's the blister, but perhaps it's also kind of fatigue taking over here in the second half as well. I think if you're like stacked in your pitching staff or you picked up some of these more intriguing options lately, maybe you can get away from him, but I get it. It's tough. Scott, what are you doing with Max Fried?
I'm probably starting him, particularly if the discussion is that he's healthy, that it's not related to this blister. In terms of how the pitches are rating, it doesn't seem like much has changed there. He is giving up harder exit velocities. He is what was the other number I found? He's giving up harder exit velocities, 88 on average. It was 86.4 through June. But 88's not bad by any stretch. The ground ball rate is lower during this time. It was 53% through June. I think those exit velocity numbers I gave were wrong now looking at my notes. But I know the average exit velocity is down. I know the ground ball rate is down like 10 percentage points during these struggles. And Max Fried is a ground ball pitcher. I was just looking through his past years, the last time he had an 8-start stretch this bad. And I didn't find one by the time you guys started talking to me. He did have an 8-start stretch at the end of last year with a 4.34 ERA, but that's, not as bad as 6.80. But I think in the long run, I think I probably start him because I don't see enough that's wrong here to make me think that he's not going to turn it around. And I think if you're guessing, it could be a situation where we talk about with Sonny Gray and Dylan Cease to a lesser extent, where you end up, okay, he had a good start, I'm going to get him in my lineup now. And then he turns around and has a bad start. And you might just drive yourself crazy. Like Max Fried is clearly one of your top 5 pitchers. And I think you just start him, except if you're stacked, like you said, Frank.
Fried did have a stretch like this in 2021, 8 starts, 647 OPS. That's the only one in his career, but it's ERA, sorry. So it's not a total outlier, but
that was a great year for him. He was already good by that time. Yeah.
It's not exactly something that we've come to expect from Max Fried. So certainly an outlier there. And that was the Dog of the Week segment, brought to you by Boehringer Ingelheim, the maker of NexGard Plus, Afoxyloner, Moxidectin, and Pyrantel chewable tablets. They provide next-level parasite protection against fleas, ticks, heartworm disease, roundworms, and hookworms, all in a tasty beef-flavored soft chew. Used with caution in dogs with a history of seizures or neurologic disorders. Dogs should be tested for existing heartworm infection prior to starting a preventive. Ask your vet about NexGard Plus chews.
All right, let's take our final break. And when we return, we've got to get through a lot in the next 20 minutes. So we'll see how we do. We'll take a break and be back right after this.
When you need your sports news all the time,
we've got breaking news to bring to you.
CBS Sports HQ gives you a snapshot of all the sports that matter to you. When you need your sports in a snap, find it on CBS Sports HQ, streaming free anywhere you are.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball today. Taking a look at some waiver wire hitters from the weekend and some shallow league outfielders. The guys from the triple threat match last week, they just keep on hitting. Jurickson Profar hit another home run on Sunday. And in August, he's got a 427 on base, 4 homers, 3 steals, 969 OPS. Ramon Laureano hit 2 more home runs this weekend. Lourdes Gurriel had a big series in Coors Field, 2 homers, 7 RBI, and 1 steal. How are we ranking that group? Profar, Laureano, and Gurriel.
Gurriel's last.
Gurriel's last, regardless of format. I think I give the edge to Laureano in categories, 5x5 leagues, roto leagues, whatever you want to call them. I give the edge to Profar in points, since I believe he leads the majors in walks since the All-Star break. That's how much he's been doing that.
I will say, genuinely surprised at the 5 steals from Profar. That's the same as Laureano has all season in a larger sample size. So in roto, that could give him a little bit of an edge, but Laureano's been the much better overall hitter. So I think that's fine.
Yeah, Scott, you're right about the walks, by the way. It's not really close either. Profar has 26 walks in the second half.
Wow.
Next closest, Ohtani, Trout have 21 each. So
26 walks in 6 weeks?
In 29 games. Yeah,
or
pretty good.
Not even 6 weeks, like
a month.
Over a month, yeah.
Barry Profar.
Yeah. A couple other names here. Big weekend for Alejandro Kirk, 2 for 4 with a sock and a shoe. How about
his first career steal?
Oh my God!
Did you see they let him keep the base?
Did they really?
That's not a joke. That's
like Acuna
at least he had it.
70, but no, it's Kirk stealing 1.
He was carrying the stolen the base during the post game interview. I don't know if he took it home with him.
Nice. And then another home run on Sunday. Kirk's having a fine season, but he's very clearly behind the Ben Rice, Basayo, Drake Baldwin group, right?
Yes.
All right. Lennon Sosa, 2 more home runs this weekend. Just quietly having a solid year. 273, 16 home runs, 2 steals, 745 OPS, 43% rostered. Does that number need to be higher? Does that sound right for Lennon Sosa?
I kind of think it should be higher. I don't know where this has come from, but I might prefer him to Colson Montgomery. I know Montgomery has more pedigree, but I think Sosa's been more impressive in the stretch that they've basically both been good for about the same amount of time. I know Sosa was up longer, but he didn't really get going until July. But his quality of contact metrics are actually shockingly good. 284 XBA, 484 X slug, 91 mile per hour average exit velocity. I think Lennon Sosa, the fact that he's also eligible everywhere on the infield except for shortstop and I guess catcher if you want to be pedantic about it, I think he's kind of impressive. I don't know how long it's going to last because he has really, really bad plate discipline, but Colson Montgomery has bad plate discipline too.
Montgomery walks a fair amount, but he does strike out at a crazy rate. So it's some differences there in terms of the plate discipline. I just wanted to point out with Sosa, like he was pretty productive his last couple of years in the minors. Mm-hmm. Never got much attention as a prospect for it, but I mean, especially 2022, which was AA, AAA. He hit 315, 23 homers, and 881 OPS. Then the following year at AAA, 271, 17 homers, and 820 OPS. So a little worse, but still good. And maybe it's just he's added a little exit velocity since then, which isn't abnormal. And showing that production carries over sometimes, which is kind of one of the lessons I feel like of this season.
Yeah, he's an interesting profile. He's super aggressive, but also doesn't swing and miss at all. I mean, he's
got good bat to ball skills.
His zone contact is 90%. I mean, that's pretty awesome stuff there for Lennon Sosa. 2 names in deeper leagues. Colby Thomas is picking things up with the A's. 2 home runs this weekend. Last 4 games, he has 7 hits, 2 homers, and a steal. He did not start Sunday against a righty, but he started the 4 games before that. 2 lefties and 2 righties there. And Paul DeYoung is making some noise with the Nationals. Last 7 games, 379, 4 homers, 10 RBI, 1 steal. Very deep league names here. Were you guys interested at all in Colby Thomas or Paul DeYoung?
Definitely not DeYoung. Thomas is an interesting power bat who's pretty flawed because he's like the worst plate discipline wise of both Lennon Sosa and Colson Montgomery. Lots of strikeouts, very few walks. But there is a path for him being, just to throw an athletics comp out there, Chris Davis, the one with a K. If everything goes right for Colby Thomas, he may have that kind of upside. So I'm not saying it's a high percentage chance he's going to turn into that player, but that's that's the profile we're talking about with Colby Thomas, who did hit a lot of home runs in the minors.
All right, let's get into the waiver wire pitchers. And is it time to give Dean Kramer more credit? He had a great start at the Astros, 7 shutout innings, 7 strikeouts, 21 whiffs on 114 pitches. He's gone 7+ innings in back-to-back starts, just 1 earned run total during that span. He's throwing the splitter more, and he gets a ton of whiffs with it. 57% rostered. He gets the Astros again this week. What do you guys think? Should we give more credit to good old Dean Kramer?
I don't really know how to answer that question.
Should he be at?
Like, he has a 3.89 xERA for this season. That's 0.6 of a run lower than it was last season. And he's basically been a 4.1 ERA pitcher 3 straight years. That's probably just what he is. He's on a really nice run right now. Really since the start of kind of June, but really lately there's been more strikeouts. So I think he's fine. I think he's perfectly usable, but like a double dip against Houston, that could go really wrong, and I really wouldn't be surprised. I think he's probably pitched overall to what his talent level is.
Do we think it's possible, because we've seen transformations like this from Framber Valdez, who was always a good fantasy option, but when he throws his curveball closer to 40% of the time, he becomes an incredible fantasy option, and then when he throws it like 25% of the time, he's a little vulnerable. Like, could Kramer... We've seen him throw that splitter more like 30% of the time rather than 20% of the time in these last couple turns. It is a great pitch for him, and he's gotten a great result. Like, I know that's 30% versus 20%, practically speaking. How big of a difference does that make? Well, could it make, given that it's such a good pitch, could it make Dean Kramer more reliable and maybe higher upside than we've perceived him to be?
Would you like an unsatisfying answer?
Maybe.
But an honest one?
Maybe.
It
would. Let's see it happen first, I guess.
Yeah, like I think it's fine if you want to play the hot hand because he's running like a 3.20 ERA over the past 3 months or whatever it is. I think that's perfectly reasonable. But if you're asking me whether I'd rather take the chance on Nolan McLean or Hurston Waldrep, it's going to be the young guys every time because Dean Kramer is 29 years old. He's a very well-established mediocre pitcher. There's nothing wrong with that. And mediocre pitchers go on runs like this sometimes. It happens fairly regularly.
I know there was a stretch last year where we were talking about Kramer pitching well. So
like 80th percentile outcomes happen around 20% of the time, which is pretty frequent when you think about how often other things happen 20% of the time. That's about how often Max Fried gets a strikeout,
Fair enough. Oldies but goodies here. I've got 4 names. They all pitch well this weekend. I'm just going to focus mostly on matchups for this group, but Clayton Kershaw is at the Rockies this week. Charlie Morton gets the Astros. Justin Verlander is at the Padres, and Jose Quintana is home against the Giants. Any interest in those 4 after some more solid starts?
So Quintana, as a streamer, I think he's pretty good this week. He's facing the Giants, who have the lowest OPS by a lot against left-handers this year. And 5 of his last 7 outings, Quintana, 6 innings or more, which has been a problem for him in the past. Doesn't seem like a problem for him now.
All right, some names in deeper leagues. I'm just going to throw a bunch of names your way. If any stand out, go for it. Jansen Junk, strong start. Jason Alexander. No, not that. Jason Alexander. Joey Wentz, strong start at the Guardians. Braxton Ashcraft, who does have some prospect pedigree, had a nice one here for the Pirates. And Orioles pitcher Brandon Young was awesome at the Astros. He took a no-hitter into the 8th inning of that one. Any of those names stand out in deeper leagues here?
I was at a party on Saturday night, right? That's when Brandon Young was pitching. And I got the notification they had a perfect game through 7 innings, and I just put it on my phone just to follow, just because I didn't want us to have to do the thing. Because he's not good, and it would have been awesome if he got a perfect game. That would have been great for him. He's not like totally without merit as a major league pitcher, but as a fantasy option, there's just very little to get excited about with a 26-year-old with his track record. Great start, though. Awesome start, Brandon. But no, nothing nothing there to get excited about. I think I looked to add Jason Alexander in a points league, but that was the only one. Ashcraft, I don't think he's uninteresting. It's just we need to see him with a longer leash. He only got up to 61 pitches in this one. You can't count on a 61 pitch guy being fantasy relevant. So if Braxton Ashcraft gets a little bit more leash, yeah, maybe there's something there. But of this group, I think Alexander's the most interesting, and he's not particularly interesting.
Well, I agree with what you're saying about Alexander being the most interesting and Ashcraft theoretically being interesting. But I might be a little more interested in Jason Alexander than you. And it's a weird profile because he's been kind of this minor league journeyman type, 32 years old. But then when you look at what he actually looks like, he's giving up recently here three starts exactly like this in August, basically. High ground ball rate, very weak contact, and not a totally insignificant number of strikeouts. So, it's a long shot, but in some of those 15 team type leagues, you need long shots at pitcher because McLean and Waldrep, you're just going to get priced out of them.
All right, next up, starters sit these pitchers. Jacob Misiorowski made his return at the Reds, and he struggled. 1 1/3 innings here, 5 runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, threw just 52% of his pitches for strikes. I have no idea what to make of the workload or how much they're going to let him pitch. He's only 26% started on CBS, and he's at the Cubs this week.
I think he's tough to start in a points league. He could go out and pitch 5 innings and strike out 9. And be very worth starting in Roto, but I think in points it's going to be low floor and relatively low ceiling.
I'm going to say that I would be surprised if Misiorowski was worth starting again this year, because I think they're going to have to restrict the workload that much and are going to be motivated to, so that he plays some role for them in the postseason. I don't know at what point I say, okay, it's fine to drop him. I'm not there yet, because there is that off chance he throws 6 innings and next time out, and my hunch is wrong. My hunches are wrong sometimes, but my hunch is I'm not going to feel compelled to start Misiorowski again.
All right, next up, we have Mackenzie Gore, the classic Charizard here. It's 2 strong starts in a row. This one against the Phillies, 6 innings, 2 runs with 7 strikeouts. And that's back-to-back quality starts, at least 7 strikeouts in each. He gets the Mets this week. What do you guys think about Mackenzie Gore?
Am I wrong to say that it would almost be less annoying if he had just been bad the last 2 starts? Just because then it would at least be consistent and you would have some sense of what to do with him. But I'm going to start him.
Yeah, I think we're back to starting him.
But I have no, trust is not in the vocabulary when you're talking about Mackenzie Gore. I think he's in the Jesus Luzardo category where he could get 10 strikeouts in 7 innings, and I wouldn't be surprised. He could be chased in the 2nd inning, and I wouldn't be surprised. I think they're roughly equally likely, unfortunately.
Next up, we have Luis Gil, who was solid again, this time at the Cardinals. 5 1/3, 1 run, 4 strikeouts, 2, 3 walks here. He's 79% rostered. I mean, I guess could be out there in some shallower leagues. 33% started. What do you guys think about Luis Gil?
I think he's probably a Charizard. We will see it play out that way. His strike rate in his 3 starts has gone from 57% to 66% to 60%. And if you're not familiar with those numbers, that's dreadful to pretty good to bad. He managed to get away with a bad one in this latest start, but only had 5 whiffs on 83 pitches. I'm pretty underwhelmed by Luis Gil. I understand why he's as rostered as he is, but I'm going to predict that goes down before the season's over. He'll end up being less than 79% roster.
Next up, we have Dr. Jekyll and Dylan Cease, who lost all of his control at the Dodgers. 3 1/3 innings, 5 runs, 3 earned, 6 walks to 2 strikeouts here. He had looked better recently before this one. 66% started. Gets the Giants this week.
Just keep starting Dylan Cease.
I guess, yeah. Your
I don't
season's
envy
already
you.
over. Who cares?
I don't know that your season's necessarily already over, but like I don't envy you. I don't envy you, people who have Dylan Cease. But I'm just telling you what I do. It's a bad situation, and I think if you play around, like I was saying earlier in the show, if you mess around with it, chase the good start, you're gonna end up missing all the good starts and potentially getting only bad ones. Or he may go on a great run, and you'll be thrilled to have him at that point. But I think if you just sit him, then you're leaving a lot potentially on the table.
On the other side in that game, Blake Snell pitched well, 6 shutout innings, only 3 strikeouts, but had 15 whiffs on 96 pitches. I think you have to start him. I'm just surprised he's only 70% started on CBS. So just a reminder to get Blake Snell back in your lineups.
That's crazy.
Feels too low, yeah.
Yep. Aaron Nola made his return on Sunday, and it was a rough one. At the Nationals, 2 1/3 innings, 6 runs allowed, 4 strikeouts to 1 walk. Kind of interesting. He had a 700 BABIP against in this game, only 4 hard hits allowed. Admittedly, I didn't watch it. It was like the early game here on Sunday, but that seems perhaps a little bit unlucky here for Aaron Nola. Do you start him again this week against the Nationals?
No. He did not feel like a must start even before he went on the IL, and he didn't come back looking like one. So he may be kind of crashing out here. His velocity's been down across the board this year, and it wasn't that high to begin with. He looks like a mess.
I will say I'm more inclined to start Aaron Nola for this start than I was for the last one, just because I don't think you should start pitchers coming off a 3-month IL stint. It just that just as a general rule, it doesn't always work, but that you should give them a chance to get their legs under them. It's tough to get your rhythm, and pitching's a lot about rhythm.
And Jose Barrios is going through a rough stretch right now, allowed 7 runs against the Rangers, and over his last 9 starts, he has a 5.89 ERA and a 1.49 whip. Still 77% started and at the Marlins this week. How do you guys feel about Jose Barrios?
Not great. I think
he's Jose Barrios.
Well,
this is just what happens. This happens every year.
He's getting worse. His strikeout rate has fallen. It dropped a lot last year, and it's remained down this year. I mean, typical Jose Barrios lands at about a 3.75 ERA, 1.15 whip, right? Which is worth writing out in most cases. I don't think he's going to end up there this year. Maybe he'll surprise me, but I just think he's less than what he used to be. I think he's closer to like a Dean Kramer or maybe a Mitch Keller. He's less than must roster.
All right, again, that is Jose Barrios. I wouldn't be surprised if he, goes on a good run again. I mean, he's inconsistent at times, but yeah, he is going through it right now, and I would not want to start him this week against the Marlins. Some hitters who are streaking. Trevor Story stayed hot, 2 for 4 with a steal on Friday, sock and a shoe on Saturday, and I went all the way back. Last 67 games since May 30th. He's hitting .290 with 13 home runs, 13 steals, and an OPS over 850. So Trevor Story has been a must-start hitter for a long time now. Shea Langoliers, 2 more home runs this weekend and 38 games since returning, 316 batting average, 16 homers, and OPS over 1050. And Michael Harris continues his big second half. The update here, 378, 8 home runs, 2 steals, and an OPS over 1,000. Anything to add on those 3?
Hit a long home run with a Curious George bat Saturday.
The bats this weekend were cool. I like that. The Players weekend was cool.
He had like 5 different ones that he alternated. I think that was the only time he used the George bat. Maybe he used it once again Sunday. But yeah, he's looked great, and yeah, it seemed like it would have to, the turnaround would come eventually. We just weren't sure how long it would take. It took so long that I don't think it's going to validate the people who drafted Michael Harris, but it obviously improves his standing for next year.
I also think it's fine to not view him as like, we've kind of just penciled him in as a top 100 pick basically his whole career, and I don't think we can do that for 2026. But he certainly has that kind of upside.
I've always thought he was overrated for fantasy. I don't know.
It was a lot of projection.
Yeah. So I don't have him anywhere this year. I had him as a fade coming into the year. But now I think he's going to be valued correctly, how he should have been valued. Like, he's a good player. I'm just not sure he's a fantasy stud, and this year shows why.
Yeah. The overall numbers, he's up to a 253 average, 14 and 14. It wouldn't surprise me if by the end of the season he gets to like 270, 2020, which is
pretty decent season. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it turns out to be a solid year, but probably still a little bit underwhelming for where you drafted him, obviously. Some hitting leftovers, Christian Yelich, a huge game on Friday, 4 for 5 with 2 homers and 5 RBI. Cal Raleigh, another big weekend, 7 hits, 2 homers, and another steal. He's up to 14 steals in the year. Like, what is going on?
His Players Weekend bats were great, too.
It's crazy. Francisco Lindor is heating back up. He has 5 straight multi-hit games. During that stretch, 13 hits, 3 homers, and 2 steals. Jazz Chisholm continues to run wild, sock into shoe on Friday, and he has 7 steals in his past 6 games. Jose Altuve, a sock into shoe on Saturday. Aaron Judge starting to wake up a little bit. Home run on Saturday and has 2 homers in his past 5 games. And Alec Boehm returned with a bang on Sunday. Came off the IL with 2 for 4 with his 9th homer, 3 RBI in that one. Anything to add on this group before we move on?
Not for me.
Right. It is perfectly predictable that Francisco Lindor and Juan Soto have been awesome during the Mets' worst stretch of the season, and they're getting all of the blame for it when it's just that their pitching's been terrible in the second half.
Oh, you mean Juan Solo? He only hits solo home runs, Chris.
Sure. Yeah.
Hey.
Ugh.
I mean, it's mostly their pitching. Their pitching has been
I know their pitching's been terrible.
Yeah, like Juan Soto isn't pitching, but it's it's just
maybe he should be for $700 million.
Oh, you're not wrong. Some pitching leftovers. Shota Imanaga had a great start against the Pirates. 7 innings, 1 run, 6 strikeouts. Garrett Crochet, great start against the Marlins. 7 innings, 1 run, 8 strikeouts. Nathan Eovaldi, another great start. This time at the Blue Jays. 7 innings, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts. Anything to add there before we move on?
Not for me.
All right, here we
Just
go.
mailing it in.
Let's go. Well, it's been a long weekend. We can, speed it up here.
We're running out of time.
Yeah. Part 2, Andrew Abbott, great start against the Brewers, 7 shutout with 7 strikeouts. Logan Webb, great outing against Tampa Bay, 7 shutout with 7 strikeouts, 0 walks. And George Kirby got hit very hard by the Mets in that Little League game, 4 2/3, 12 hits, 7 runs, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. Anything here on Kirby, Webb, and Andrew Abbott?
It's been so. Let me start with Webb, I guess. Webb had a good start. He's been kind of good start, bad start lately. He had a good start because his changeup was spectacular. Maybe spectacular is a little strong, but it got a bunch of whiffs. It got a bunch of whiffs in this one, and that seems to be the key for him lately because he's lost that sweeper. The sweeper keeps getting like 1 whiff, 2 whiffs. It's not doing much of anything for him. Mm-hmm. That's been going on for close to a couple months now. So when the changeup's on, he's fine, but when it's a little less than great, that's when he seems to struggle. So I expect that to remain the case going forward, a less consistent Logan Webb. And then as for Kirby, he looks like he had righted the ship here. Mm-hmm. Previous 4 were all quality starts. What's strange about it, though, like Kirby's his defining characteristic is elite control, right? Usually top of the league or very close to it in strike percentage. During that 4-start stretch with the 1.44 ERA, he was throwing strikes at just a 64% rate, which is league average. Even for the season, it's down. This one, he threw only 60% strikes, which is low. And, you can kind of understand if George Kirby has bad control in the game, it's not going to go well.
Also, really bad defense behind him.
Yeah. Julio had a few plays he missed up.
Mm-hmm.
Which we don't normally get. Julio's one of the best in the league.
So
it's outlierish.
I kind of, because I know Chris brings up the point sometime, well, maybe Kirby throws too many strikes. That hasn't been the issue this year. That hasn't been the issue for him this year, and it wasn't in this start either.
Chris, I do know that you wanted to mention Sean Manaea real quick. He's given up 4+ runs in 3 straight. What's going on there?
Yeah, I just wonder if the league adjusted to his new approach, and because he streamlined his pitch mix when he lowered his arm slot, he's just fastball slider now almost exclusively. Does he have another adjustment to make to the adjustments? I don't know. That's the concern, because his strikeout rate is still very good, 27%, but his swinging strike rate's down to 10.9%. That's his lowest since 2020. He just has not been as effective this season, and I do think he's pretty fringy right now. Yeah, I don't think Chaminade is a must-roster pitcher.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
He gets the Nationals this week, so
I think he's a fine streamer versus the Nationals, but I can't say I have a ton of confidence in him.
Yeah, I want to say he's must start against the Nationals. Outings have been short, the runs have been high.
I think he's a streamer right now.
I think you could drop him potentially to make room for Hurston Waldrep or Nolan McLean.
Call to the bullpen for the Rangers on Friday. Phil Maton entered in the 8th with runners on first and third, a 2-run lead. He gave up 3 runs, took his 4th blown save and 5th loss. And then on Sunday, Sean Armstrong got the final 4 outs for his 4th save. Somebody on Twitter was asking us, is Sean Armstrong the next name up? I guess it kind of looks that way for now. Unless you guys feel differently. I don't know.
I honestly do not have a strong feeling about this one.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know that would go well, turning to Sean Armstrong. You know what? He's been better this year than I thought.
He's had a solid season.
Yeah. His track record's not very good, but he's been surprisingly good this year. So maybe they will give him. He's got better numbers than Phil Maton even. So maybe that makes sense.
For the Yankees on Friday, David Bednar got the 9th with a 1-run lead. He struck out 2 for his 2nd save with the Yankees. And then on Saturday, he entered with 2 outs in the 9th, a 4-run lead, 2 runners on. He got Ivan Herrera to pop out. And there you go. His 3rd save, and just kind of looks like the go-to guy for the Yankees right now. For the Rockies on Friday, Victor Vodnik struck out 2 for his 5th save. And then on Saturday, he also picked up his 6th save. So Victor Vodnik is currently the Rockies' go-to guy. On Sunday, he was unavailable. Juan Mejia picked up the save there.
A lot of saves for the Rockies.
I mean, that's like a third of their season total.
Yeah. They're coming around. How about those Rockies? For the Nationals on Saturday, Jose Ferrer got 2 shutout innings for his 2nd save, and he is up to 17% rostered. Cole Henry got a save recently, so I think it's a bit of a mix and match, but would still bank on Jose Ferrer getting most of those. For the Tigers on Saturday, Will Vest entered with 2 outs in the 7th, 2 runners on, 1-run lead. He got out of the jam, stayed out there for the 8th. He also got out of a jam in that inning. And then Kyle Finnegan got the 9th with a 3-run lead, picked up his 24th save and his 4th with the Tigers. Kind of feels full-blown like what it was early on this season.
Yep.
With Tommy Canby.
But maybe slight advantage to Finnegan when Vest had the advantage over Canely before, because it's 4-2. 4-2 is the saves count since the Tigers brought Finnegan over.
For the Athletics on Saturday, Sean Newcomb got the final 5 outs for his 1st save. For the Marlins on Sunday, Anthony Bender got the 9th with a 2-run lead. He allowed 2 base runners, but picked up his 4th save. The Marlins do not have a closer, and they never will ever again. For the Dodgers on Sunday, Alex Vesia recorded the final 5 outs and picked up his 3rd win of the season. To stream or not to stream, and just to let everyone know, Scott does not like any of these pitchers, but he's only doing this as a favor to all of you streamers.
Occasionally, I actually like one.
All right.
I don't think I'm going to today, though, scanning through the names.
I wouldn't be surprised if Liberatore had a good start. I wouldn't be surprised if Dustin May had a good start. He's coming off one of his best starts of the season.
They're facing Liberatore, Marlins, May, the Orioles.
And then
Nestor Cortez against a Giants team that can't hit lefties, maybe.
That's not a terrible one. And then I actually think this is a decent day. I don't think any of them can't miss, but Jack Leiter at KC, Brady Singer at the Angels. I think these are actually decent options today.
Leiter at KC is my favorite, I think.
I would probably go Nestor Cortez 2nd on that list. And then on Tuesday, we have Michael McGreevy at the Marlins, Sagano's at the Red Sox, Shane Smith at the Braves, Jacob Lopez at the Twins. I don't think he actually qualifies. He's like 79% rostered. So,
But you know what? That probably makes him 59% rostered in Yahoo, and he is a very attractive play at the Twins, especially coming off the 2 starts Jacob Lopez just had.
That's the only one I like out of this group.
yeah, Emmett Sheehan at the Rockies, but
Yeah, no.
don't like that too much.
I think best case scenario, you get 5 good innings.
If I had to choose a second, it's probably Shane Smith at the Braves, but
Yeah.
don't love it.
They've been hot lately.
Yeah,
I like it.
sure. We are going to wrap there for Scott and Chris. I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning into Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.